Timberland boots, double knotted, dressed appropriate for the weather, no cavities. These are the observations of DeKalb County Police and DeKalb County medical examiners when they found William in February of 1999. I'm Sam Welty, my co-counsel is Ryan Bozarth, and we have the privilege of representing Miss Teresa Black in this case. After all the evidence is presented, it will be clear to you that William was not neglected, he was not abused by his mother. I want to introduce you to Miss Black. I'm going to call her Teresa. She is 46 years old. She has an 18-year-old daughter that loves her very much. She has a partner who she has lived with for many years, and they all live in Arizona together. She's been with the same company for the past 12 years, and she works very hard there. She's a good employee. Teresa has had a difficult life. She had William when she was 15, 2 weeks after her 15th birthday. When she turned 18, her mother passed away tragically. Now, her mother was her support system. Her mother was part of William's support system. That was a tragic blow to that family, that Teresa's mother passed away when she was only 18 years old with a 3-year-old son. William's father really wasn't in the picture much. He didn't really contribute financially. So it was at that point, when she was 18 in Charlotte, it was Teresa and William fending for themselves. Right around when Teresa turned 21 and William was 6, Teresa lost her job in Charlotte. And she couldn't find work right away. It was tough. Like I said, it was her and William on their own. So she made a decision. And that decision was to move to Atlanta, to seek opportunity, to seek a job, to seek work, so she could support her son, because that was the only choice that she had. Now, she'll tell you herself that 20-year-old decision, it may have been a naive one. She didn't know people here. She didn't have a job opportunity right away. She didn't know the city well. But that decision was the best decision she knew to make to find work. She thought she was going to find work here. She brought a few $100s with her for hotel rooms, and that's where they stayed for about a week. For about a week, they're in hotel rooms, but that money ran out quickly, and like many families, then and now, they fell into a cycle of homelessness. It was her and William on the street, asking folks for money, asking folks for food. They would take the MARTA bus during the day just to have something to do to stay warm. We're talking the winter of 1998 going into 1999. This was tough, but she was doing her best with what she had. They could stay in shelters sometimes, but as I'm sure you understand, shelters fill up. That was not an option for them. So what they would do, once they got a better landscape of the city, they got to know the MARTA bus route well. And they would find quiet places to sleep, not near bus stops. They'd get off at a bus stop, walk a little ways to a quiet area where William would be safe and it would be quiet and they wouldn't be disturbed. Now, this went on for a few weeks, maybe a month. They're struggling, but they're making it. She is working towards her goal of getting a stable job, trying to get an ID in Atlanta. One day, like many kids do, William got sick. Now, at the time, and you got to put this in perspective, Teresa had been raising William. She knew him well. She knew that he would get sick sometimes, like many parents know that their kids get sick. They get a snotty nose about every 2 weeks, it seems. This was not out of the norm for William and for a regular parent. So she gave him some medicine, like any prudent parent would do. She gave him some medicine. They took the MARTA bus and they ended up in Decatur. They got off the bus and walked to a quiet, wooded area. What the state would call the incident location. This is near Clifton Springs Road, right across from a church, a safe, a quiet place where they can get some sleep and some peace so they can get up in the morning and continue to survive. So that night, Teresa puts William to bed. She says, "I love you." And she kisses him goodnight, and they go to sleep together, alone. Teresa wakes up in the morning. The sun is out, and she shakes William to try to get him up, like she's done hundreds of times, like parents do to wake their kids up. William didn't wake up. She shook him again. "William, wake up. We gotta go. We gotta get some food. Let's start our day." William did not wake up. As I'm sure you can understand, this is every parent's worst nightmare. She panicked, but she didn't leave right away. She paced around. After a few minutes later, she tried to wake him again, but it became clear to her that he was not getting up and he was not breathing. So for the next day, she laid with him. She stayed there with him and hoped for a miracle that his eyes would open and he would get up and they would start their day. But that never happened. And at that point, Teresa had a huge decision to make. And she will tell you herself that it was the wrong decision. What she did was leave William there in his Timberland boots, double knotted, with his thermal jacket and his pants, and she walked away. But like the detective who interviewed her is going to say, and you're going to hear from directly, that is not murder. That is not murder. Speaking of that interview, the state is correct. She did not tell the truth right away. She hadn't told anybody this for years. For 20 years, this guilt was inside of her. These people are strangers. Of course she's not going to tell them right away. But ultimately, in that interview room, she tells them the truth. and she cries, and she tells him what happened. She tells him the truth that lines up with the physical evidence. She tells him the truth that lines up with her and William's life together. She tells them the truth, and she'll tell you the truth that lines up with the experts in this case that you're going to hear from. So I want to talk about the science and the experts in this case because it's going to be a very important part. But before I do that, I want to give you a disclaimer that these pictures, some that you've already seen, are not going to be easy to look at. We're dealing with a young human boy that people loved. But the fact of the matter is that his mother, Miss Black, Teresa, is on trial for his murder. Okay? So, as callous as it may seem sometimes, when we're looking at his bones and we're looking at his skeleton, please, and I'm sure you will, remember that he is a human boy that people loved. But we have to know, and we have to look into the science. We have to look into his body. We have to look into how it was found. And that's why we picked you. We picked you as jurors because we know that those emotions are going to be natural. But you're going to look at the evidence as it is and set aside those emotions. As I said, the science and the experts are crucial in this case. For one reason, because it's so long ago. Some very important things were discovered when Dr. Gowett, who was the medical examiner in DeKalb in 1999, he is the medical examiner in DeKalb in 2024. He uncovered some very important things, and we have an expert as well who is a medical examiner who also came to some very important conclusions that I want to highlight for you. As it pertains to the skeletal muscle that they found of Williams, the state's correct. No conclusions, these medical examiners will tell you no conclusions can be drawn from that skeletal muscle. No conclusions can be drawn about how much was in his system. They can tell you it was in his system. They can tell you it was near his death. They cannot tell you how much, and they will not, because it's not scientifically possible to. You're also going to hear from the original toxicologist in this case. His name is Dr. George Jackson. He's a leader in his field. He's going to confirm to you, you cannot derive a concentration of a drug from the skeletal muscle. The state's theory in this case is undermined by science. The state's theory in this case is undermined by their own experts. These experts cannot show you and will not show you lethal levels of cough medicine in Williams' system. You're also going to hear that there was a broken bone in Williams' face. It's called the zygomatic arch. And you've already seen pictures of how they found Williams' body. At the time, in 2013, when they looked at this case again, when different experts, anthropologists looked at this case again, and in 2023, when they looked at this case again, their conclusion from the medical examiners, from the anthropologists, is this: that injury to his zygomatic arch is likely the result of post-mortem animal scavenging. And you've seen some of the pictures yourself. That scene was not perfectly preserved. His body was not peacefully lying there, as sad as that is. So it's clear, and the experts are going to tell you, that that was their conclusion. See where things are at this scene. Look closely. Like I said, I know these pictures aren't going to be easy to look at. Use your common sense. Listen to what the experts say. These are experts. They are scientists. They are independent. They are neutral. Listen to them. You're also going to hear from people that knew Teresa and knew William at this time in the 1990s in Charlotte. And some of them are not going to have good things to say about Teresa. There are a couple things, though, that I want you to remember and keep in the back of your mind when they come up and testify. Number one, listen to see if they told anybody in any position of authority about Teresa and William, that she was abusing him, that she was a bad mom in the 1998, 1999, 2000, whenever. You're not going to get DFACS records. You're not going to get police reports from this time that say this woman is hitting her son and he should be taken out of the home. You're not going to get those kinds of records. You're going to hear about other records in this case. You're going to hear about witness statements. You're going to see photographs. You're going to see police reports from the DeKalb County Police Department with it. Because records are important in any criminal case, but especially in a case that is 25 years old. So the absence of those records, any records of abuse between William and Teresa, speaks volumes in a case like this. I also want you to pay attention and keep in the back of your mind how these people feel about Teresa in the year 2024. And how this case, this indictment, and the media coverage has affected their perception of her, how it's affected their memories. They're looking at Teresa, they're looking at this case in a 2024 lens. They cannot take those glasses off and look at this case through a 1998 or a 1999 lens. They cannot do it. So 2 questions that you can please remember when these folks testify. Can they really, truly remember these details and events from the 90s? And did they ever say or report anything to any person of authority that could have done something? Make a report. The answer to both of those questions is no. There are no reports because there's no record of abuse, because abuse did not happen. And finally, I want to talk to you about the state's investigation. In 2021, they started out with a conclusion. It's a false conclusion, but they started out with a conclusion. And that conclusion was that Teresa caused the death of William. And as I'm sure you'll notice, that investigation, it worked backwards. What facts can we find that fit that narrative? And we're going to disregard the rest. We're going to disregard what the science says. We're going to disregard what the expert says. We're going to disregard some of Teresa's story, but we're going to believe some of it. We're going to cherry pick what we believe and what matches our narrative. And we're going to go with that. And we're going to put that in the indictment. Your job as jurors is to hold the state to the correct standard. They must prove each element, each material element of each count in this indictment beyond a reasonable doubt. As crazy as it sounds, the words in that indictment are all that matter. You might feel the urge, the absolutely human urge, to judge the actions of Teresa at this time in the 90s. That if you were there, you personally would have done it differently. That she could have gone to somewhere to find housing, she could have gone to police, she could have done this or she could have done that. Okay? All of that can be true, and she can still not be guilty of these charges as indicted. She did not kill her son. She did not cause the death of her son. She did not cause the death of her son by giving him too much medication. She did not cause his death by not seeking medical help. She did not hit him in the face and cause that broken bone. Most importantly, the state cannot show you that she did. Now, Mr. Bozarth is going to talk to you more about this at the end of trial, but I want to introduce the thought to you, and I want you to keep it in your mind as you hear these witnesses. The burden of proof is only on the state of Georgia. It is their burden to you to show to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, each element of each count in this indictment. And at the end of this trial, at the end of their evidence, at the end of their version of events, they simply will have not met that burden. Teresa was a young single mother in 1998. She fell on hard times. She and William became homeless and in a cycle of homelessness. And William tragically passed away. Teresa will tell you herself that she made a mistake, a huge mistake, by walking away. She'll tell you she's not perfect. But she did not hurt William, and the state cannot show you that she did. Timberland boots, double knotted, dressed appropriate for the weather, no cavities. This is not the body of a neglected child. This is not the body of an abused child.
All right, thank you.